Hello to all the amazing people out there who's watching this video. It's a pleasure to have you here. I hope you're well and you're safe. So today's video is it's going to be kind of a reading vlog. I love watching reading vlogs, and I was hoping to do one on my channel, but I did not think that I would do it so soon. So I'm reading two books right now. One is on my Kindle and the other is a physical book, a paperback. The one that I'm reading on my Kindle is called A Tale for the Time Being by Ruth Ozeki. This is a very interesting book, and it was also shortlisted for the Man Booker Prize in the year 2013. And yeah, I'm really liking this book. I'm already 80% into the book, and in this book we are following our protagonist Ruth, who stays on this secluded island, and one day when she's on the beach, a mysterious package washes up on the shore. So in this package, there is this diary of a 16-year-old girl called Naoko or Nao. And so we are following the two storylines. One is the storyline of Ruth, and the other is the storyline of the girl who has written the diary, who has written things about her life. So we see these two parallel storylines. We see how Ruth is affected by the girl. There's this mystery of how did the package wash up on the shore, and what happened to the girl who's writing the diary. And Ruth is trying to kind of find out more about the girl and find out more about her family. So in a way, the diary has a huge impact on Ruth. There are certain triggers for this book. So there are mentions of suicide and bullying. These are kind of very important themes that are discussed in the book. These things, in some parts, they are discussed in detail. There are times when things go bad. When I started reading this book, I thought it's going to be a very heartwarming, cheerful story about this young girl, but actually it's the opposite. It's a sad book. But in between, in places, there are also elements of hope. And there's this Buddhist nun in the story, a 104-year-old Buddhist nun. Yeah, she is a kind of a ray of sunshine in the book as well as in the life of the characters. This book has certain philosophical aspects in it. Like I said, there's this Buddhist nun, so obviously there are elements of Buddhism and Buddhist philosophy in it. So this book is a mixture of those philosophy and all these themes of bullying and suicide, and I'm hoping to complete it very soon. And after that, I'm going to pick up another book. It's already a book that I'm currently reading, and it's called East of Eden by John Steinbeck. Now, this is a well-known classic of all time. John Steinbeck was one of the most legendary authors of his time. And yeah, I have been meaning to pick up a classic for so long, and I have been wanting to read John Steinbeck because I have heard so many good things about him. He was also a Nobel Prize winner, and in this book we are following the two generations of these two families called the Trusk and the Hamiltons. And so I'm already halfway into the story, actually more than halfway into the story, and I'm liking it so far. The writing of John Steinbeck is really beautiful. The main reason why I have been wanting to pick up John Steinbeck is because of his writing. His narration is so descriptive. It's so lyrical and poetic in some parts. He has a very, very wonderful way of explaining things or giving description about things or places or objects or of people. So I'm going to read these two books today. So I'm going to do a bit of journaling, and let's get on with my reading. I'm really, really excited to finish A Tale for the Time Being today, and let's see how the conclusion turns out. Okay, so I'm this close to finishing this book, and I'm really happy how the book has turned out to be. And like I said, I thought it was just a heartwarming, cheerful book, but it's just the opposite. It is sad, but it's such a thought-provoking book. Like, I'm reading the end chapters of the book, and it's giving me a lot to think. I mean, throughout the course of the book, it has given me a lot to think, but the end chapters, like the way everything has turned out, the way everything is being concluded, it's really giving me a lot more to think. And I really love the philosophies or the human aspects that the book has touched on. The book has touched on a lot of things related to human empathy or human feelings. There are triggers for this book, but at the same time, these things are so important as well. And the author, the way she has handled these sensitive topics, she has done it really well. I'm loving how the conclusion is taking shape, and like it's positive. After every sad incident that has happened in the book, after every sad thing that I have got to read in the book, it's such a refreshing thing to see such a positive ending. There's one thing that I forgot to mention about the book is that this book deals with the concept of time. I think I have already mentioned that there are certain philosophical aspects in the book. It deals with a lot of philosophy, and one of the most important philosophies that the book deals with is the concept of time or time being, and it's really an interesting concept, and I love how it's being dealt in the story as well. And I'd also like to mention the fact that the author, who's Ruth Ozeki, is a Buddhist nun, so obviously she has a lot of grasp on the Buddhist philosophy. I have a pretty good memory, but memories are time beings too, like cherry blossoms or ginkgo leaves. For a while they are beautiful, and then they fade and die. I finished reading A Tale for the Time Being by Ruth Ozeki, and I'm going to summarize my thoughts and feelings about the book after a little while. I'm going outside to the balcony to get some evening air. So I finished A Tale for the Time Being by Ruth Ozeki an hour ago. It took longer than I expected because I took so many breaks in between. I think it was a brilliantly narrated book, and there is a metaphysical aspect towards the end as well. I mean, in the other parts of the book, there is that aspect, but it's kind of subtle, and there is this mystery element in it as well. I mean, it's not a mystery book, so the mystery element, it's there, but it's not the main subject of the book. The main subject of the book is kind of philosophical. The main themes that the story explores are kind of topics like bullying and suicide and all those things, war, depression, all those things, and alongside that there is this philosophical and spiritual aspect as well. I think the conclusion that was given to the story and the characters as a whole was kind of satisfying. Like, in the core of the story there are these themes, there's this philosophical aspect that revolves around time, or the concept of time, or the concept of time being. There are certain times when the author kinds of tends to describe certain things, certain disturbing acts of bullying or suicide kind of in detail. It's not too gross, and she does it in a very clever manner. And yeah, even though there were times I was like, my god, what's happening to the characters? It was really disturbing at certain moments, but I liked how like so many things came together, so many things coalesced, all those philosophical aspects, that spiritual aspects, and kind of all coalesced into this whole story. And I liked how the story was concluded. It doesn't matter if the story is sad, but I do want some kind of this hope in the book. For everything that happened, for every bad thing or disturbing thing that happened to the characters in the book, there's also a lot of hope towards the end or even in between. I like if the conclusion is hopeful, and here also the conclusion was hopeful. There are a lot of questions even towards the end. Like we get a lot of answers to certain questions, but also there are questions that are kind of left to the readers to think about. The characters' decisions and their conscience kind of evolve towards the end, and that was the most positive impact on the story. That kind of changed the dynamic of the story. It kind of gave that related positive aspect to the book. Overall, I really like the book. I have not yet rated it, but I think I'll give it 4 or above 4 stars, maybe 4.25 stars. It was a medium-paced book according to me. It was not neither too slow nor too fast. It's character-driven, definitely. It's a character-driven book. I had really hoped to finish East of Eden this month, but I'm going quite slow with it. And the book is also a bit slow, and I'm also taking my time. So in East of Eden, we are following two families, or the generations of these two families, called the Trusk and the Hamiltons. These generations kind of intertwine. It takes place in this very beautiful, rich valley called Salinas or Salinas. I'm not sure about the pronunciation. The story takes place in this valley in California called Salinas Valley, and we are following the generations of these two families over time, and these kind of represent, or it kind of reenacts, the Christian myth of Adam and Eve and the rivalry of the two brothers Cain and Abel of the Christian myth. I'm not too familiar with these myths, but One does not have to know that story to understand this one. This one is good on its own, this story. It's a very, very, very complex story. It has complex themes. It deals with betrayal, it deals with love or the absence of it. Yeah, John Steinbeck is a wonderful author. How do I critic a classic author like John Steinbeck? He was also a Nobel Prize winner. Let me read out the blurb. Set in the rich farmland of Salinas Valley, California, this powerful, often brutal novel follows the intertwined destinies of two families, the Trask and the Hamiltons, whose generations helplessly reenact the fall of Adam and Eve and the poisonous rivalry of Cain and Abel. Here Steinbeck created some of his most memorable characters and explored his most enduring themes: the mystery of identity, the inexplicability of love, and the murderous consequences of love's absence. Till now, I'm liking the story. I can only sum up my thoughts after I have completed this book. More than often, I'm kind of going slowly with the book. I'm liking the characters, maybe not all of them. The villain of this book is very scary. I mean, the things that the villain does. I don't want to name the villain. I mean, it won't be a spoiler, but still I would prefer not to name that villain. So that villain does some of the most horrible things. I haven't come across such a villain since a long time, and the villain has a very, very big role in the story. It's he or she is not just a sidekick. That's all I have to say about this book, and hopefully I will finish it this month. If someone who wants to get into Steinbeck or wants to read his works, and if they do not like thick books, then I would definitely recommend his other book, his very, very short book called Of Mice and Men. Now I haven't read the book, but it has great ratings. It's again one of the most popular books of all time, a great classic. I'd also like to end the video at this point, and to anyone who has watched it till now, thank you so much for being here. Hopefully you liked this video. I would come up with a review for A Tale for the time being. And till then, see you, take care, be safe, and a very, very good night, a very, very good evening to you. See you soon.